I have been going through a book by Tim Keller called Rediscovering Jonah.
Oh, Tim Keller is so good.
Yeah, you just discovered Tim Keller.
Because I have this awkward tendency in life where I go, if everyone else is into something, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I did it when I had a bass guitar with like everyone likes Fender bass and Fender guitars. I'm like, losers. I'm gonna do something else. Turns out they were right. Turns out Tim Keller too. Everyone likes that guy. I don't know what their problem is. He's so great.
Yes.
Now that he's gone on to glory, you've really grown to like him.
I'm so mad at myself
when he
for that.
first passed, you really were having a hard time. You're like, I just found him. I was just like getting into his sermons.
I don't know why I have that tendency. I don't know what it is about
And
me.
then for probably about 2 months, every day you'd come back. I was just listening to Tim Keller this morning.
Yeah. I found like he had an app. I was all in. I was listening to his sermons. It was so great.
Yes.
I don't even like listening to sermons all that much. No offense, anyone listening.
It's okay. So I've been doing his book called Rediscovering Jonah with my small group.
Ooh, fun.
And just finding like little tidbits all the time. I shared one a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and I have another one. So I'm going to read the passage for us and then kind of walk us through what's going on here. And then after the break, we'll talk about, so what now?
It's like our little small, we're having a small group.
We are having a small group.
Should we do an icebreaker?
No.
Trust falls.
I don't do that at my small group.
Right.
Okay. Jonah 1, verses 5 and 6. This is the NLT version. Fearing for their lives, the desperate sailors shouted to their gods to help, and they threw cargo overboard to lighten the ship. But all this time, Jonah was sound asleep down in the hold. So the captain went down after him, and he said, "How can you sleep at a time like this?" he shouted. "Get up and go pray to your God. Maybe he will pay attention to us and spare our lives." Any first thoughts of like what you notice here before I get into it?
It's like the Boston Tea Party with Jonah. They threw everything overboard.
Wow.
And the sailors realized it may not have been their first choice of what could be going on, but they realized Jonah might have an answer to this problem they face.
Yeah.
I mean, sailors, they're used to some storms. And
So this one has been big storm.
It's bad enough that they're all on their knees praying to their God and like, let's go ask this other random guy to pray to whatever his God is.
Yeah, so they're pretty
it
desperate.
It was a bad storm.
Yeah, they're not, like these are sailors that do this all the time. It had to have been a big storm. Might have happened quickly, especially considering it was most likely a spiritual situation. It was probably all of a sudden. It wasn't something that they could have seen coming. So we often think of the book of Jonah about us going to go talk to people to share the gospel with people of other faiths, other nations, things like that, which it is. But it's also about how we treat non-believers, unbelievers. Because the sailors are pagans, obviously, or as we'd say today, unbelievers, non-Christians. They have all these other gods that they believe in, that they're praying to, desperately trying to figure out, like, get this to stop. But what happens is that the sailors who are pagans act more admirably than Jonah. Because what is Jonah trying to do? The whole reason he's on the ship is because he's fleeing because he doesn't want to deal with the unbelievers in Nineveh.
Right.
And then God's like, LOL, you're going to be on this ship with unbelievers and have to deal with them.
And they're going to know to turn to a higher power.
Yes.
It might be the wrong higher power, but they've got sort of the idea, and you're down there sleeping and ignoring me.
What an uncomfortable truth for Christians today.
Yeah, he was like, I'm not dealing with those Ninevites, God. Like, joke's on you, I'm running away. And he said, God said, actually, you will deal with these pagans on the boat.
That's really cool. I never picked up on that part before.
Yeah, me neither.
And they're going to behave more appropriately than you.
Yes. The pagans act more admirably than Jonah. Jonah is dismissive and unhelpful in the time of a common chaos. They're all on a ship together. We are all experiencing this chaos together. And you, Jonah, are being unhelpful and dismissive. This is the main storyline of Jonah. God cares about how we, as believers, relate to people who are deeply different than us. He wants us to treat with them respect, love, and generosity, no matter their race or religion. And this comes out in the overarching story to the Ninevites and now to the sailors. So verse 5, the storm comes, and these experienced sailors, as we discussed, are terrified. So it's not a normal storm. There's a 16th century Scottish minister, Hugh Martin. He said, this is a sleep of sorrow. We've all had the sleep of sorrow where you're just trying to like sleep so you don't have to feel the realities of life.
Except he said it with his Scottish accent.
Well, yeah.
It's a sleep of sorrow.
Exactly. So he's just like, deep into sleep. I don't care what's going on. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm just trying to sleep away the reality, to sleep away life right now.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
some
you just,
people just shut down to
Yeah,
sleep.
you just shut down. And all you can do is sleep because you don't want to deal with the pain or whatever it was that you're going through. The sailors are seeking the common good of everyone in the boat because they're all in this tragedy together. They all go around trying to find out which God to pray to make them safe. And they're even open to Jonah's God, even though it's not theirs. They actually seem more ready to call on Jonah's God than Jonah himself.
Wow, that's true.
Jonah is seeking his own good and wallowing in his pride, while the sailors are trying to save everybody on the boat. Then the sailors, they cast lots, and even when they seem to have found divine guidance, they don't turn on Jonah and throw him overboard like they could have. Instead, they listen to him and take the information in and make the right decision. They show Jonah and Jonah's God respect. At every turn, the pagans outshine Jonah.
I've never thought about it like that.
Jonah was like, throw me overboard. Let's just get this over with. Just throw me overboard. And they're like, no. Like, let's show you some respect and show your God respect and try to do this right so that we can all be saved.
And I always thought of that as like self-sacrifice, like being noble. But is it possible that maybe Jonah was actually suicidal? He just didn't care at that point?
It could be. Could be.
Yeah. So often you think of it as like he's the hero of the story.
Mm-hmm.
He's really not.
Like he was bad for a little while.
But then he gets better.
And then he goes to Nineveh and everything's better.
He really doesn't make a single good choice in this entire story when you really think about it.
And it's pretty convicting to hear that the most godly people were the ungodly ones. Mm-hmm. We don't like that message.
Yeah, the overarching theme of the book of Jonah seems to be God cares how we treat people of other faiths and other thought worlds and other races.
Stop it.
And people of other faith might be better at your faith than you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Well, that's very uncomfortable.
there's two things that we can take away from this. So we've talked about what's happening in the story. There's two things that we can take away from this, kind of like the what now, the application. The first one, Tim says, is people outside of the Christian community have a right to evaluate the church on its commitment to the good for all. He says, we see a pagan sailor basically reprimanding God's prophet because Jonah is doing nothing to help. And he's like, what are you doing? Why are you not trying to help us? We're all going to die and you're not helping us. So a pagan sailor is reprimanding God's prophet.
I wish this didn't sound so familiar.
Yeah. Tim Keller says they were in the same perilous boat and their safety depended on what each of them does, and God's prophet didn't do anything. Believers and non-believers today are, quote, in the same boat. If crimes, plagues, poor health, a water shortage, economy, or social orders are out of whack, all of those are harming our community, and we're in the same community together. We're in the same boat with non-believers in our communities. And we cannot flee from the non-believers and seek only good for Christians. God is the God of all people, and we can see ourselves as a part of the whole community and not just our faith community. So he's saying, if there's poor health, if there's a water shortage, if there's plagues or crimes in your community, you need to seek the good of your entire community, not just the Christians in your community.
I think we're scared of that in the church often.
Why?
Partnering with unbelievers because there's a verse that says you shouldn't be unequally yoked.
Yeah.
So we can't partner fighting crime or poverty in our own community with Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, or non-religious people.
I'm pretty sure that passage is referring to marriage. Don't intentionally marry someone that is an unbeliever.
No, I'm totally with you on that. And yet what I'm saying is I think I often hear that there's resistance from Christians to partner with non-Christians because they're scared God will be mad at them for it.
I think it's more than that. I think they're afraid that their beliefs will rub off on them and that they will adopt Judaism or, Islam or whatever, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday with whether Christians should have an open mind or not. If your faith is that fragile, then you probably don't have any faith at all.
Well, and how about this one? Well, I don't want to give the appearance of evil, so I can't work with them.
Is someone who's an unbeliever doing the work that God called you to do evil, though?
Right. Yeah. It was a startling thing for me over the years to see some atheists I became good friends with doing more good than me. When so much the church chooses to demonize non-Christians, like watch out, they're going to get you and your children.
Yeah.
And it turns out they're like the sailors, actually, doing a lot of good, and we're just crossing our arms and staring at them.
Yeah, and that's Tim Keller's second point. So the first point, people outside of the Christian community have a right to evaluate the church on its commitment to doing good for all. The second point is recognizing common grace. God gives good qualities to all people. Christians get specific and more deep ones through the Holy Spirit, but pagans can be kind, loving, generous, and care for others as well. And we Christians can humble ourselves and respect people of all faiths and appreciate their work and their actions because we can learn from them too.
Boy, we've lost that idea.
Yeah, that unbelievers can be kind and loving
Yeah, like,
and generous.
because what they are is they're out to get us.
And we think we've cornered the market on love, and we're also not loving ourselves. Like, I mean, we've seen people text us that think that just because someone is not Christian, they're inherently bad parents. That, like, you are not inherently, out doing evil things. Like, yes, you should believe in God, but you are not doing evil things as part of your daily life just because they're a different religion or don't have one at all. Some of them, like Brian was saying, are doing better work for the kingdom than we are.
I get some comfort in that it's not a new problem, clearly. And yet, part of me just still goes, why can't we figure this out?
Yeah. So like looking at this, back to the story of Jonah, these unbelieving sailors were trying to do a common good. They were trying to save themselves and the others in the boat. They're doing something kind and loving. And then they're also showing respect to Jonah and to Jonah's God. But they're unbelieving. But they still have common grace, good qualities that God has given them. Not necessarily the gifts of the Spirit, because that only comes through having a relationship with Jesus and being changed by the Spirit. But unbelieving people can have good qualities as well. And us as Christians can humble ourselves to respect people of all faiths because they do good works too sometimes.
And often, and sometimes more than we do.
Sometimes.
So what do we do with this? Like, how do we make those changes? What would it look like in Northeast Ohio if we were working towards the common good with non-believers?
I mean, I think it first starts as changing ourselves, that people who don't believe in Christ can still be good people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously everyone is inherently bad, but doing good things can still be loving. Two of the most generous people in my life, unbelievers.
Right.
They would do anything for me. They would give me anything I needed with not even a thought. Some of the most generous people are unbelievers.
That should be disorienting to us, because that's been my experience as well. And I'm thinking even of a cool example we learned about recently. Our friends at City Mission, right? They're a Christian-based, 100% funded by donors, and they're Christian. No federal money. They're helping the unhoused and those experiencing homelessness. But right now they're partnering with the city of Cleveland because Mayor Bibb has a program where he's trying to reduce the number of people living on the street.
Right.
And they're like, that sounds great. We'll help. Isn't that what you're talking about here? Common good?
Yeah.
So why are we so afraid of that? I mean, we talked about that a little bit before, but what is like the big obstacle that keeps Christians from working for the common good as opposed to our own good? Because right now we're obsessed with our own good.
We make it an us versus them.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, we are all made in the image of God. We are all people who shouldn't have to have, water shortages. We shouldn't have to have poor health in our communities. And we can do something to have everyone in our community have good health things, have water, have less crime. Not just Christians should have less crime. Everybody deserves less crime.
I wonder if we want control of the messaging too. We want to be able to say, we're doing this in Jesus' name, and that's the extent of it, rather than you partner with other people who are not your church or other Christians, and you can say, we're doing it, our part in the name of Christ, but these other people are doing it because they just feel a bond with society and a need to contribute to humanity.
Yeah, another odd observation, we're really good at doing this in natural disasters and short-term problems. Like, we're probably the best at it. If there's a hurricane, Christians show up first. If there's a tornado, Christians show up first. Why? Common good. We're not going to refuse to give you water and clothes and food if you're not a Christian. But we struggle dramatically with the chronic problems in society that can't be solved in a couple of weeks. Why is that? Like homelessness, poverty, bad education for those in poverty.
I'm not sure. And so like a Christian problem, but a human problem is we don't get the instant gratification. After a hurricane and you go to serve somebody, you get to see relief and joy on their face right away. You get to see a new house being built in 4 days.
Yeah.
But the long and hard work of ending homelessness, you don't get to see that.
Yeah, probably.
And it's more of a wave than just like instant gratification. It's a wave of emotions. There's going to be peaks and valleys of serving people for the long term.
But that also means then that when we're doing the crisis help, there's part of it that's self-interest motivated and selfish. I want to feel like I'm doing good.
Could be.
Part of it, not all of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop doing those things. I love those things. May have to revisit this on Friday. Great stuff, Lauren. Thank you.
Sure.